full-spectrum deterrence ensures Pakistan's national security, strategic stability and peace in South Asia. He is also the of his devotion to duty, strategic vision and outstanding leadership of Pakistan.
I am greatly honored to have been invited by Pakistan's premier think tank, Islamabad Policy Research Institute, IPRI, to speak on a subject which is current and under considerable debate. There are a variety of views that have been expressed by subject specialists. It's a rich professional debate, and I'm sure that these views will eventually contribute to a better understanding of the issues involved and lead to realistic conclusions. In the entire debate, as the topic indicates, the essence of the conclusions ought to revolve around the stability of Pakistan's deterrence against India, both strategic and conventional, as one seamless concept based on hardcore ground realities. Before proceeding with presenting my views, I would like to extend my sincere felicitations and compliments to General Majid Hassan and his excellent team IPRI for being ranked 74th in the University of Pennsylvania's Think Tanks and Civil Societies program. To be ranked amongst the top 75 in international think tanks of the world is no small achievement. I think it's quite huge. This is an outcome of the reforms agenda undertaken by IPRI and is a feather in IPRI's and Pakistan's academic cap. My best wishes for IPRI in its continuous quest for excellence and for achieving even greater heights in the future, and may Allah take you to the next target, the top 50, inshallah. Today's subject, stability of Pakistan's strategic deterrence, has rightly been framed by IPRI in the backdrop of the May 25 escalation in the politico-military environments that emerged in the post-Pahalgam period. Hence, as the concept note states, one needs to evaluate the stability of Pakistan's strategic deterrence in that context. Therefore, in order for all of us to be on the same page with reference to the context, I think that it will be useful if I were to read out verbatim the brief concept note, so we all know what the reference point is and what is expected as an outcome in today's debate. The concept note given to me states, strategic stability of nuclear deterrence in the subcontinent is a function of the credibility of the deterrence as well as the efficacy of the conventional deterrence to deny the space for conventional war sought by the stronger protagonist in the conflict equation. While Pakistan has come up trumps in the May standoff employing the air and missile force very effectively, a little more space for conventional missile, drone and air strikes has been opened up by India, compelling creation of a rocket force command by the army. Now the key question is, have we restored the stability of our strategic deterrence through our efficacious conventional response, or widened the space for a conventional conflict in a future war? This is the concept note. To begin with, I would like to politely contest the presumptive words "the stronger protagonist" used in the concept note, presumably for India as a pre-war predetermination. In my opinion, the outcome of the May 25 conflict, in which the concept note correctly states that Pakistan came out trumps, a winner, as indeed, if I may add, trumps and a winner in the February 2019 Pulwama-Balakot conflict as well, does not support the term stronger protagonist for India. I would like to think that the side which came out trumps, the winner, in both the fair contests, despite the TSR metrics, that is time, space and relative strength of the battle being of India's choice, not once but twice in 6 years, was the real stronger protagonist, and that is Pakistan. As a professional, I do understand that the relative size of the Indian armed forces has traditionally and universally been projected to foster the impression of India being the stronger protagonist in South Asia. That is why, in fact, the coinage on our side for many years of Pakistan operating under the disadvantage of a conventional asymmetry. This coinage has unfortunately got ingrained in our strategic culture as well, with certain inherent psychological downsides. To me, large size is not the entire story, just as the large size of the combined Arab armies versus the Israeli military does not tell the entire story. There are a number of factors of quality, technology, training, and other force multipliers that ought to be taken into account other than the mere large size of armed forces in order to determine the relative strength metrics of any two sides. In South Asia specifically, the nuclear tests of May 98 by India, followed quickly by Pakistan, the universal wisdom that emerged was that a strategic balance had been restored and that in many ways Pakistan's perennial disadvantage of conventional asymmetry had been addressed considerably. Through the conduct of nuclear tests, Pakistan acquired the great equalizer, and that the ghosts of all-out wars in South Asia, and I repeat, all-out wars in South Asia of the 1965 and 71 vintage had been laid to rest. That is why, in fact, the Indian military planners had almost immediately after the nuclear test started to toy with the idea of finding space for a limited war despite the nuclear overhang. They correctly concluded quite realistically that all-out wars of the 65 and 71 vintage were no longer possible. Pakistan's nuclear deterrence came into strong reckoning and assessments, and thereby delivered on the purpose for which it was conceived and developed. The Indian Cold Start Doctrine was the outcome of that thought process against a nuclear Pakistan. No more mobilizing and massing of entire armies as in exercise brass tacks and Operation Parakram. Only limited wars seeking to find space for operations despite the nuclear overhang, limited space objectives in a limited time frame, remaining well below Pakistan's perceived nuclear threshold. In the years from 98 onwards, as Pakistan's nuclear capability slowly but surely embarked on a well-defined and focused force development trajectory under the NCSPD, it matured and grew into a robust operationalized force as a comprehensive triad in the ASFC, in the NSFC, and in the AFSC. The capability attained the objectives of the policy of full spectrum deterrence. At this point, sometime around 2011-12, even the Cold Start Doctrine, which was reportedly Indian Army led and did not quite enjoy the ownership of the political government and also perhaps of the Indian Air Force, began to look impractical to the Indian military planners against a nuclear Pakistan, which had by then started to radiate serious deterrence effects through full spectrum deterrence. In fact, on a number of occasions during the ensuing years, Mumbai, Uri, Pathankot, etc., India did not automatically mobilize its independent battle groups or the IBGs within the 48 to 96 hour time frame as was conceived in the Cold Start Doctrine. The Theta Force Reserve, the TFRs, too remained in the cool layers of peacetime stations. It seemed that the Cold Start Doctrine was dead on arrival against Pakistan's nuclear deterrence. It certainly did not figure out anywhere in the escalations of February 2019 or recently of May 2025. Now, some years ago, the Indians reportedly started to work on a relatively less ambitious dynamic response strategy, or DRS,